Uncle Trent, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Natasha shook her head. If it wasn't you, was it Uncle Hector? Dylan sneered. My father and I would never do anything to harm the family. This must be a misunderstanding. Natasha's brows furrowed deeply. Natasha Hammond, stop denying. If you confess and return the stolen treasures, there might be a chance to resolve this. But if you insist on being stubborn, we must enforce the house law. Dylan threatened. Uncle Jacob, if someone steals while being the guardian and destroys the family's legacy, how do we deal with them according to the house law? Kate asked sarcastically. Jacob answered with a grim expression. Gouge out their eyes, cut off their tongue, and break off their limbs. The crowd's expressions shifted when they heard that. If they truly enforced the house law, Natasha wouldn't survive. I haven't done anything wrong. Who dares enforce the house law on me? Natasha yelled. Her gaze hardened as she stared at the crowd without fear. Natasha, I'm giving you one last chance. Hand over the treasures, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, you'll have to face the consequences. Trent looked serious. Uncle Trent, I've been set up. Please don't fall for it. Natasha reasoned, still denying. You really need to be taught a lesson. Dylan didn't bother wasting his breath further and commanded, guards, enforce the house. Law on her. As soon as he spoke, several muscular men approached Natasha with sharp gazes. Stop! Just then, Hector suddenly rushed in and shouted angrily. What are all of you doing? Attempting a rebellion. Uncle Hector, you came right on time. The corner of Dylan's lips curved up into a smile. Natasha conspired with outsiders to steal from the family treasury. As the family head, you should enforce the house law personally. His words carried a hidden meaning. While speaking, he took out a knife and placed it in Hector's hands. He clearly wanted the father and daughter duo to go against each other. Nonsense! Hector knocked away the knife offered to him. I know Natasha very well. She would never do anything like this. There must have been a mistake. When Hector heard that his daughter was in trouble, he immediately rushed home. He didn't expect to be met with such a hostile scene as soon as he stepped inside. Were they going to enforce the house law? Who dared to enforce the house law while the head of the family was away? Uncle Hector, it's impossible to know a person truly. Character is nothing in front of riches. Dylan shook his head and continued, the treasury was robbed, and only you and your daughter have the keys. If it wasn't Natasha, was it you, then? Nonsense! Hector glared at Dylan and exclaimed, as the family head, I consider myself upright and honorable. I would never do anything that harms our family. Well, that's certainly unusual. If it wasn't you or Natasha, was it a ghost who did it? Dylan asked sarcastically. The crowd was doubtful upon hearing those words. Although Hector was selfless, it didn't necessarily mean that Natasha was innocent, since it involved his daughter's safety. Even the most upright individuals would struggle to remain impartial. Hector, the treasury theft is not a small matter. Someone has to take responsibility. Otherwise, it will be difficult to gain the trust of others. Trent said sternly, Hector, I know you care about your daughter, but this concerns the fate of our family. You shouldn't make a judgment based on your emotions. Jacob added. He was stern too. That's right. Our ancestors' legacy must not be destroyed. Natasha betrayed and stole from us by working with outsiders. She must be punished. At that moment, a chorus of voices erupted in a clamor. Since they all had a share of the treasures within the treasury, they were naturally furious that it was stolen. Everyone, calm down. Hector raised his hands to calm the crowd. This matter hasn't been fully investigated yet. We can't just come to a premature conclusion. Dylan said, Uncle Hector, the treasury cannot be opened without the keys. I'd like to ask, where is your key? Here. Hector took out a pocket watch hanging around his neck. He opened the lid, revealing a specially crafted golden key hidden within. Since it was an important item, he always kept it on him. How about your key, Natasha? Dylan turned toward her and asked. I have it too, of course. As Natasha spoke, her hands went toward her waist. However, her expression soon shifted. The key hidden at her waist had disappeared. What's wrong? Can't find it? Dylan smiled sarcastically. It should be in my room. I'll go back and look for it. As Natasha was about to leave, Dylan extended his hand to stop her. No need for that. Your key is right here. Dylan raised his hand. A golden key was in his hands. Its design, pattern, and engravings were the same as the one in Hector's hand. What? Natasha was confused. Why is my key with you? That is a question you should be asking yourself. Dylan sneered. Right after the treasury was broken in, I immediately gathered a group of people to capture the thief. I found this key on the traitor. Bring that traitor in here. Dylan shouted. Soon, 2 guards entered, dragging an injured man in with them. That person was none other than one of Natasha's attendants. What? Upon seeing the man, both Hector and Natasha frowned. They started to worrying. Uncle Hector, you should recognize this man, right? Dylan walked around the attendant. I caught this guy as he escaped with the treasures. After a thorough interrogation, he confessed and admitted to his crimes. The key to the treasury is the evidence. Hey, what are you still standing around for? Hurry up and tell us the truth. This is your last chance to redeem yourself. Kate stepped forward and kicked the attendant. It's not me. I had nothing to do with it. With a thud, the man fell to his knees before pointing at Natasha. He groveled as he cried out. It was all Miss Natasha's doing. She ordered me to do it. I was just following orders. I don't know anything. Please, I beg you, spare my life. What are you talking about? When did I ever order you to do such a thing? Natasha looked serious. Ms. Natasha, we have been exposed. There's no point in denying it. You might even get a lighter punishment the sooner you hand over the treasures. The attendant said mournfully. You sure got the guts. How dare you falsely accuse me like that? Natasha's anger surged uncontrollably. She didn't expect to be framed by her men. There was no way for her to prove her innocence now. Natasha, you can stop the act. We have a witness and evidence. Just confess to your crimes. Dylan looked at her with eyes full of hostility. This is your last chance. If you don't show remorse and continue to be stubborn, we'll have to enforce the house law. Hector, you are the family head. You must enforce the house law, no matter personal reasons. Trent said sternly. The family's interests always come first. Anyone who dares to harm the family's interests is an enemy of the Hammonds, Jacob declared. Enforce the house law. Enforce it. The scene turned into chaos with their chants. At first, they were just suspicious. But now there was both a witness and evidence. They were sure that Natasha was involved in the theft and had betrayed the family. It was necessary to enforce the house law in response to such a crime as a warning to others. Silence. Hector thundered. The instant sense of authority reverberated throughout the entire hall. Instantly, the voices stopped. Hector, you are the family head. Will you stand against the law for personal reasons and protect a criminal within the family? Trent asked. Hector, it is unwise to go against public sentiment. You should think this through carefully. Jacob warned. Trent, Jacob, everyone. Hector took a deep breath before picking the knife up from the ground. He spoke loudly as the family head. I share an equal responsibility for the treasury theft. As a father, I failed to teach my child. Therefore, I hold myself equally accountable. I understand that all of you are angered at this situation. That is why I will bear the punishment on behalf of my daughter as a response to your concerns. When Hector was done speaking, he suddenly raised the knife and thrust it into his abdomen. 3 times in quick succession, instantly, blood surged out. It wasn't long before his clothes were stained red. What? Everyone was shocked at the scene.